Welcome back into the Sean podcast. Continuation of those summer scouting. This time we're going to go to the back end of the defense. You know, those secondary guys that had no fly zone. Sean, what you think about it?
I love this. I love this secondary class combination of corners, combination of safeties.
It's going to be fun.
I think the top end of the cornerbacks in this past draft was really good. Sertan, Horn, really good top ends. But I think we have at least one cornerback who, if he was able to declare last year, may have made a push or an argument to be the number one cornerback off the board, maybe even higher.
I think we have two. That's my hot take. We have two corners. Now, no, one of them probably wouldn't have really pushed it, but I think after this season, they're going to say that he would have went higher. We've got two cornerbacks that I think will go in the top 10.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the great thing is, as we're talking about these corner and these secondary, the safety prospects, I see at least two of them that can go top 10. You're seeing two corners. I'm thinking you have the safety in the top 10 as well.
Oh, you know I've got a safety in the top 5.
And that's normally unheard of, but when we get to this guy,
we'll get there.
Yeah, we're going to get there. But last year's draft was so top heavy with the offense. I think this one's going to be a little top heavy with the defense.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Even though you do still got quarterbacks, it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun.
I know. It's going to be that age-old question. Do you take a quarterback because you need one, or do you take one of these blue-chip defensive prospects because they are the best player on the board?
Right. Now, getting into it, who's your number 5 guy?
Number 5 guy, we're going to the West Coast. We're going to Washington. I have Trent McDuffie. He is one of the best tacklers in this cornerback group. I believe in his career he's missed 2 tackles out of 994 attempts, or 994 snaps. So I missed 2 tackles. Now, given his size, at least compared to the rest of his top 5, he's got to show a lot more this season and prove that he can have success in the NFL as an outside cornerback, because he's being listed at 5'11", 190. And it's, I think, slightly bigger than Asante Samuel Jr. was listed last year, and he was getting hit with that undersized tag on the outside.
What did Asante Samuel Jr. just do in preseason?
What did he do?
Just asking.
Oh, who did he pick off?
Jimmy G. Just asking.
Yep, and you know, Asante Samuel Jr. has the pedigree. His dad was in the NFL for many years, Super Bowl winner. I think he had Defensive Player of the Year, right? I think.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, not Defensive Player of the Year. I don't think did he get it?
Ooh, we'll have to have our producers check. But Trent McDuffie's going to be slightly undersized, so he's really got to show out this season. Make himself known that way. He can shed any of those undersized labels.
True. All right, let me get to my number 5 guy while you are doing what you're doing. Now, I don't think I'm going to get this name right, but I'm going to say it. It's Seven Banks from Ohio State. Dude's got a lot of instincts. He's got really great size and length. He's a nice speed. They're like all the speedy receivers where they were blowing past Sean Wade were not blowing past this guy. There's a reason why they were targeting Sean Wade and not this guy. The only thing with it is he's going to become more consistent. He's got to show more and put it together, which, you know, we hear a lot about Ohio State guys. So hopefully he can put it together, and Ohio State can get one of those first-round corners back in, because last year was the first year since 2015 Ohio State did not have a first-round corner.
Wait, what's that again?
Last year was the first year since 2015 that Ohio State didn't have a first-round, I should say DB, not corner.
Yeah. Whew.
Yeah. Hey, next up, unless you got the answer.
All right, so he did not win Defensive Player of the
I
Year,
didn't think
but
he did.
two-time Super Bowl champion, two-time
Yeah.
All-Pro first team, one-time All-Pro second team, four-time Pro Bowl, two-time NFL interception leader.
Yep. That all I agree with. But this is not about him. Let's
Nope.
see the next guy on your list.
Next guy I have, we're going to the Midwest. We're going to Cincinnati. We're going to pick ourselves up some Ahmed Sauce Gardner, and I love that nickname. And this is the second Cincinnati Bearcat defense player that I've talked about. There's so much to like about him going into the season. He's got size, that great height. He's 6'2", he's 188. And it sounds like he's been adding muscle this offseason too. And he's got the production. He has not allowed a touchdown reception in his first two seasons as a starter for Cincinnati. Now, some people are going to argue he's at Cincinnati. His production is going to be a result of the level of competition, but he's got the explosiveness, he's got the hips, he's got the ability to mirror those wide receivers. He's going to disrupt the game no matter what conference he's in. He's a physical cornerback who needs to tone it down this year. Otherwise, he's going to hit with some penalties at the next level. I think the 2020 season, over a 9-game year, he had about 7 penalties. Gotta tone that down. You're going to get called more often in the pros.
All right, so I also have Sauce at number 4. I also enjoy all the things that you said. One thing I will add here, and this probably contributes to some of those penalties. He named Sauce for a reason. That dude brings that attitude. He's got, does not lack for confidence. Not at all. Dude is legit confidence. But you're right. If they're calling it in college football, they're going to call it even more in the pros. So he needs to figure out a way either to calm down the penalties or cheat better. Hey, there's some corners out there or some wide receivers that know how to do that cheating better, like Michael Irvin. You know what Michael Irvin's whole thing as a wide receiver was, right?
What was that?
He pushed off on almost every route, but what he did was he pushed off with his elbow.
Not his hands.
He never extended. He always did the nudge with the elbow.
Huh. Well, who was it that said it? I think it was definitely Eddie Guerrero, but I can't remember where it originated.
You're not cheating. You're not trying.
You're not cheating. You're not trying.
All right, moving on to your number 3 guy.
All right, so we are going to head over to the East Coast because we're going to stop at Clemson, and we're going to say hello to Andrew Booth. Last year was his first season starting, and what did he show us? He showed us good hands, and he showed us good body control. In Andrew Booth, you're going to get a physical cornerback who is going to hit you, strong tackler, good against the run, but there's not a lot of tape available on him. I need to see him take the next step this year. I need him to show some consistency and show us he can do it over more than just one season. More tape,
True.
please.
I agree with you. But I'm going to get to him later. So my number 3 guy is Trent McDuffie out of Washington. I understand he's undersized. To be honest with you, considering he's in Washington, I don't care. No matter the size of the DB, Washington just produces 1, smart football players. 2, DBs who can play in the NFL. This dude, like you said also, he is a legit tackler. Also, he might be the most technically sound DB in this entire draft. Next to one other guy.
And we're not getting to that guy yet.
No.
Hold on.
Not even close to
We're almost there. We're almost there. All right, we're going to stay east. My number 2 guy is in Florida. Kaiir Elam He may not be as good as my number one guy, but that's not a knock against Elam. This is a physical corner with excellent size, excellent length. He's already spent 2 years going against the SEC offenses. He's seen everything they've thrown at him, literally, and it usually doesn't yield good results for those offenses. This kid is really talented. He is very close to a blue chip prospect in my book, which may or may not mean anything, but it's out there.
It does not. Just messing, Sean.
Thanks for co-signing on that. Yeah.
Here's my thing with Elam. The problem that's going to happen is he is what you get. What is his ceiling? I'm pretty sure he's at. I don't think there's much room to grow for him. Personally, that's my thoughts on there. I like him, and he's a very safe player. But you know as well as I do, when it comes to the draft, safe is not what teams want to hear. They want that flashy guy who they know that they can mold and make better. He's going to be a good, solid player for a team, but he is what he is right now, I think. But getting to my number 2 guy, which is going to cause a bit of debate, I think, because I think my number 2 guy can be a blue chip prospect, and this is Andrew Booth Jr. out of Clemson. And if you just look at the good tape, just his good tape that he's put out there, he is a blue chip prospect. This dude is ridiculously good, especially the hands. Good Lord. Like, no one makes catches like that. Receivers don't make catches like that, let alone a DB. The problem is, yes, he is a little inconsistent, and he hasn't played much. So, yes, he does need another year just to show that. But I'm just saying right now, if he continues that trajectory, this guy will be a blue chip prospect next to Derek Stingley Jr., and this guy will be a top 10 pick in the next draft. And yes, I did let the cat out the bag. They already know who the number 1 corner is.
There should be no surprise about who the number 1 cornerback in this class is. That number 1 cornerback prospect, in my opinion, the blue chip cornerback prospect is Derek Stingley Jr., LSU. He's been showing out since his true freshman season. Got great size, great athleticism. He can do it all. But what separates him from the rest of the cornerback prospects is his ability to play the ball and disrupt the routes. What's nice? He reportedly ran a 4.3 40 in high school, and it doesn't look like he's slowed down at all.
Not at all. Not at all. Now, here's the thing. We're going to talk about a player in the next group that I actually think is a better player than Derek Stingley Jr., but he won't go higher than him because of position value.
I'll agree with all that.
There's a player in the next group, which he's probably going to be the last guy we talk about, which is just, the word is escaping me. It's interesting that that's the way we're going, because I think he is actually legitimately the best player in this entire draft coming out. But as for Derek Stingley Jr., I mean, this dude as a freshman was considered to be a pro-ready guy. This was Adrian Peterson at the cornerback position. They started the year, that national championship year, with people saying, there's that cornerback on LSU. He's pretty good. And it turned into, man, that Derek Stingley Jr., good Lord. we're going to try to go to the other side. And they actually had a pretty good corner on the other side. But, everybody knows. Everybody's known his name. He's Trevor Lawrence at the cornerback position. Everybody's known he's going to be the number 1 corner coming out. He probably won't be the number 1 player. Probably be either second or third, depending on what people value, because he's going to be up there with Evan Neal, the quarterbacks, and The other guy we're going to talk
Kayvon
about,
Thibodeau,
Kayvon Thibodeau,
DeMarvin Leal.
Leal. Like, I mean, this draft is loaded.
Yeah, if your team is drafting in the top half of the first round and you need defensive talent, this is a really good year for you.
But for our purposes, that Andrew Booth is a guy to watch because I know I'm higher on him than you are.
I mean, it's not by much, though.
We will see. We'll see how it goes. Now, we are going to move on to the safety position.
You know what's crazy about safeties is when we talked about our prospects for the past draft, we got to the safety series. It was the last one that we did.
It was rough.
It was one of those like, man, we could have skipped this entirely because none of them were drafted in the first round. But this class is so
Someone's getting
different.
drafted in the first round.
Someone's getting drafted top 5. Well,
Yeah,
top
I think
10.
at least 2 of these guys are going going in the first round though. Maybe 3.
Yeah, it's overall it's going to be a much better safety class. All right,
But let's start with your number 5 guy.
number 5 guy, and I seem to have a teammate thing going on, and it wasn't intentional; it just happened that way. But just like I talked about Aiden Hutchinson in the last episode, we're going back to Ann Arbor because my number 5 safety is Daxton Hill from Michigan. He has potential written all over him. He has the tools, he has the skills, he just needs more reps. He's shown a lot of flashes, but he needs to show that he can put it all together on tape this season because until he does, it makes it hard to determine where's his ceiling, where's his floor, what do I got, and reportedly ran a 4.3 40 in high school. We got some fast secondary people here.
All right, here's the thing. I don't have an issue with the player, Daxton Hill. I just don't think he's going to be able to showcase enough to get him to be drafted, as a top 5 safety. Mainly because Michigan is lowly underperforming year in, year out.
They have a tough schedule this year, I think, too.
So I don't know if he's going to be able to show enough, considering Michigan's history under
Jim Harbaugh.
Jim Harbaugh, Johnson on the Ravens.
Well, yeah.
Better coach.
Oh. Yep, and that's why I use the word potential. Like this year, he's either going to show us what he has, or he's going to show us where that floor is.
But I think he's going to be a better pro. I just don't know what to do with him just yet. All right, my number 5 safety is Jaquan Brisker out of Penn State. And this guy, he's that safety linebacker hybrid that people are looking for. He's the Jeremy Chin type player. He's that guy who can he's a bigger guy. He has good coverage skills, and you could put him in the back end, but where you really want him, you want him near the box. You want him hitting somebody. You want him taking on some blockers. You want him doing that dirty work.
Yeah, I agree with all of that, and we're just going to piggyback right off of that because Jaquan Brisker's my number 4 guy, so we're staying in Happy Valley for a few minutes. Excellent with run defense, and that's going to make him more suited for that box safety role. Tremendous tackler. He only had 1 missed tackle in 60 attempts last year. Arguably one of the better tacklers in the country, regardless of position. But you're right. When you have him on the field, you want him in that box safety role. You don't want him playing single high, double high. No.
You can.
Put him close. You can, but you're going to get more out of him when you put him closer to the line of scrimmage.
Agreed.
Mm-hmm.
All right, your number 4 guy.
No,
we just said your number 4 guy. All right, so my number 4 guy is Jordan Battle out of Alabama. This guy's very, very athletic, Very solid player. Obviously, we've kind of mentioned it earlier. He's another one of these freshmen that started for Nick Saban. And even though that's turning into a bit of a trend, it's still kind of a big deal. Because Nick Saban does not, he's not known for it. And he likes to trust players. So, you know what happens? You know what it means if Nick Saban trusts you? That means you must be a smart football player. You know he doesn't trust guys who don't know assignments, don't know the playbook. So this guy's very smart, along with that athleticism, and he's kind of lost in the shuffle. There's other names we've heard of. We haven't really heard his name yet, and that's one thing that needs to be shown is he's a good player, but let's see him show out for Alabama like some of these other guys do.
All
Now, I know
right.
you're going to hold that one in your back pocket.
Yeah, we're gonna just a little while. Not too long. Not too long.
All right, let's get to your number 3 guy.
All right, number 3 guy. We're going to the Midwest. We're going to Evanston, Illinois, Northwestern. We've got Brandon Joseph. He seems to find himself in the right place at the right time, and it has more to do with instincts than it does with luck. I just need to see this success over a full season. I need to see more tape of this. Is that right place, right time? Is that really luck? I want to think it's the instincts, but I need more tape to show me that it is the instincts.
I'm going to hold on to that one. I got that coming later. My number 3 guy, I believe it's pronounced Taiki Smith out of Georgia. This guy is a transfer from West Virginia. Got a lot of athleticism, can cover. He's got some good length, some good size to him. We do want to see how he holds up in the SEC, but this guy's got a lot of potential. Georgia's kind of loaded right now with all sorts of talent on both sides of the ball, and it's going to be fun to see.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to the SEC this year, especially Georgia and Alabama.
True
That's
that.
gonna be
I mean,
that's gonna
they're
be
the
really
favorites
fun.
to be in the SEC championship game, aren't they?
It's yeah,
Ain't- What? What's that?
it's gonna be really fun watching those two teams week after week, seeing how well they do, and eventually when they do match up, that's gonna be such a fun one.
All right, moving on though to your number 2 guy.
All right, number 2, we're going to Tuscaloosa. All right, we're going to Alabama
Speaking of
because
Alabama,
I have Jordan Battle as my number 2 guy. Now, you said he was a smart player. What stood out to me is his intelligence. And he's a great athlete. He can
indeed.
cover, he can tackle, he can blitz. He's able to do everything that you need your safety to do. And he does a little bit more because he's shown that he's a leader in that secondary. And that can help translate over to that pro game. So there's a lot to like about Jordan Battle.
There is. I need to see him take that next step in that defense.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I mean, outside of the blue chip prospects that we've talked about, and even they need to do it too, everybody on this list, everybody on the last list and the lists before that, they need to take that step. None of them have the advantage of just saying, well, I can just sit here and do nothing, and I'll still have my same stock, except for the blue chip prospects we talk about.
Well, Stingley in particular, and the next
Stingley,
guy are
Thibodeau, this next guy who's number one, we're going to hold you in
the
suspense.
next number 1 guy.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna go to my number 2 guy, who I think can be drafted in the first round this coming draft, and it's Brandon Joseph out of Northwestern. Right now, he is probably the best coverage safety out of any of the safeties in this draft. He is kind of that hybrid guy who can, cover the slot and whatnot, which is, makes his worth a lot better. But also, this dude comes with some attitude. He lays some wood. You know, he's letting people remember who he is. But also with that, he's got that ball hawk mentality. So he knows when to lay the wood, and he knows when to go for the ball, which is hard to teach. So that when you ask us the instincts, I think it is.
It's he's got to confirm it for me. He's got to confirm it.
I get it. But moving on to the next guy, who I say, oh yeah, out loud, is the best prospect right now for the 2022 draft. This could change, obviously. This is way early, but right now, this dude's the best guy coming out. And that is Sean?
Kyle Hamilton, Notre Dame, deserves to be a top 3 pick. Should be a top 5. It'll be a travesty if he falls outside of the top 10. He's been asked to do a lot in that Notre Dame defense, and he keeps getting better. He's been called on the blitz. He can defend the run. He can play the slot. He can play 2 high safety. He can play single high safety and be in the last line of defense. Freak athlete. Phenomenal length. Phenomenal size. 6'4", 220. You don't imagine him being a safety, but he is a freak. And that's a good thing.
Built by the gods. I mean, he is 6'4", playing safety. And you would think that, like, to be in that size, 6'4", 200, but he can still fly. He goes from one end, sideline to sideline, in a blink. And then his hips are fluid. He ain't stiff at all. This people aren't built this way to do this. This is the Derwin James type mold of safety. Now, no, let's back up the bus. I'm not saying he's Derwin James, but he's the Derwin James mold of safety. You have no clue where he's coming from. You have no clue what he's going to do, and he's going to wreck your offense. Along with that,
yeah, it's funny.
Unlike Derwin James, he doesn't have the health concerns. I'm a knock on wood for him because I don't want to jinx him.
Yeah, you better. You better. And it's funny because one of the notes I had down was he is the most talented safety prospect since Derwin James, who himself should have been a top 10 pick. But at that time, the safety position was just undervalued.
But they also didn't know what to do with a guy like that. You want to know the other funny thing is? Brandon Joseph, very similar to the other guy in that draft. Minka. But any other thoughts here, Sean?
I think you're right when you're saying that Kyle Hamilton is the number 1 overall prospect. Like, if we had to put together a big board, if we had to say who's your top 10 draft prospects, regardless of position, because we know that in the NFL, when it comes to the draft, the best player is not always taken first because there's always the premium placed on quarterback.
This guy should be a top 5 pick. This guy should be a top 5 pick.
Top 3.
But he's going to go behind a quarterback. He's going to go behind Thibodeau. He's going to go behind Stingley. And then he might go behind Evan Leal.
There's a team in the 7 to 10 range that Kyle Hamilton is going to fall to. And it's going to be the greatest thing ever because the teams ahead of them are thinking, well, we need our cornerstone, we need our quarterback, we need our corner, we need our tackle. No. Whatever team he goes to is going to be extremely fortunate. So if you don't want your team going to the playoffs this year, you're hoping they fall to like that 7 to 10 range in the draft.
Now, just to wrap it up, any words of wisdom, Sean?
Oh, I don't think I have anything. It's disappointing.
My words of wisdom are going to be draft related since we're talking about this with Kyle Hamilton. If you got a good thing, don't overthink it. Just do it.
Hey, you should put that in clothing.